Alright. Looks like you're clean. Alright, I just thought maybe I'd try to start doing regular short lives. Just like, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, and for the next 5 minutes, I would like to share that. I started experimenting with my cheese with something called Salicornia. You guys aren't on a wide angle, so I gotta. Here, let me scoot back. Here. Salicornia. It's here. This is my evaporative cooler. And I have this. That's my Tetris that I play. Get that out of the way. And show you the Salicornia. They were supposed to send me some. I wrote them about how impressed I was with this and gave them like a dozen ideas, and they haven't returned them since. I was gonna do a review on this in exchange for, because it's really expensive. This stuff is expensive, but good thing is this is completely wild and forageable and replicatable. Like, it's one of the only valuable plants that can grow in salty soils, like next to the ocean. So yeah, it's like it's one of the main things that I find is that it's very relaxing because it has magnesium in it. Magnesium is one of the relaxing minerals. But it's really fun. They need to sell it in a shaker. I think that's one of the things I suggested. Because when you open it up, even, it just plumes out. But because it has that fineness, and actually that's what I want to experiment with next. Now that I think since I made these two cheeses, first two experiments, I've gotten one of these like matcha sifters. So I think I'm gonna experiment with sifting out the large chunks and dusting ones and then crumbling with the rougher particles. But the point is that it's a salty, it grows in saline soils. There's a plume that comes out when I squeeze it. And so it takes up salt and a bunch of minerals. It's like basically like a superfood, like kelp or seaweed or any of the things that spirulina and all that. So it's salty though, and it's able to inhibit microbes in the same way that salt does. But it's not quite as salty. Here's the whole key: is that it's the perfect saltiness for. Well, we're about to figure it out. So I wanted this to be a live taste test, is also what I was thinking. This was made from rennet, from my sheep's milk, my dairy sheep right here. And that's one of the people that drives by regularly with their dog because they like to see the sheep grazing out there. The dog hangs out. That's the nice one though, it doesn't ever bark. And so I made this with their milk and out of rennet, and then this one I made out of their kefir. This is the kefir cheese that I poured the thickened kefir into the kefir strainer, let it strain down and thicker, and then I put it in and pressed it. Admittedly, wasn't able to get out as much moisture, nearly as much moisture as the regular cheese making method. And so fast forward a month later now, I am checking in on it. I deliberately wanted to see what would happen after a month of both these aging under my bed in my evaporative cooler without me cooling it, without me wetting it down daily, because all the cheeses that I have in there are so hard they don't need refrigeration. They're all like super hard parmesans that like you cannot reconstitute. They're just for shaving off onto things. like Parmesan. It's just Parmesan. But I wanted to. I like other cheeses that are chewy and stretchy, but the problem is then you gotta like treat them constantly and manage them so that the one of the three main microbes doesn't take over the surface of it and start changing its flavor. I like the innate flavor, and I also really like the smoked flavor. I've been smoking my cheeses in the last years, and this thing is awesome. I love that, and it is the natural flavors that I want to preserve, natural and then also the smoked flavors is the other ones that I have that I really like. But the three main flavors of microbes that influence the the flavor of all cheeses that are known, that are cultural cheeses, are like B. Linens. B. Linens is the stinky cheeses like Limburgers, and you got your moldy white rind cheeses like Brie, and then you got your blue cheeses. And then cheddaring is a process that does incorporate and host a warm loving bacteria, because it's a process of controlling the pH and keeping the temperature relatively high for a long period of time at the very beginning of the cheese making process, which is something that I do naturally in the summertime, because I just tend to live outside and I live in a warmer environment than the room temperature cheese making warehouses or whatever. So all mine are a little bit cheddary, a little richer in that way, but I'm not monoculturing it with that bacteria, so it's nowhere near like a normal cheddar. But the point is that after a month of no refrigeration, the test on this is that this was so gross. I wish I would have filmed it. It was like it had liquefied, completely liquefied, and it had the craziest looking molds on top. And I really wish I would have filmed myself taste testing it, because I bet I looked so stupid. Like I put a pin drop on my tongue, and it was I knew it was going to be electrifying. Like that's just what happens to whey. There was standing whey in the bottom, so I could I poured out the whey, and it was really brown whey too. It was crazy, but it's very electrifying. Like if you subject milk to high temperature summer days, and it separates, the longer you go, the more acidic and electrifying and sour the whey that leaches off of the solids will become. It's not pleasant at all. It's disgusting. And so yeah, this had mold with it. I'm sure that if you had it in a more controlled way, that you could cultivate that. But this was like different colored molds. I fed it to the chickens, and I'm about to feed it to them again now. Watch this. I just wanted to show you. I actually pulled it off the ground before they ate it all, so I could show you. Eat it. You guys got it back. But I'm not giving them this one. This is the one that I want to taste test. This is the regular cheese that I made with, rennet, and pressed it in my little cheese press here. And I'm pretty sure I smoked this. I like smoking. So let me tie in where I got distracted earlier, is that is the saltiness of Salicornia is perfect for. I mean, as soon as I tasted it, I was like, wow, this is like. I think they report that it's. I forgot how I differ. What they say, but it's. Let's see. I think it says on the package. This is. I haven't eaten it for a while because I keep it down there and it's really expensive. So I more take it as a supplement. I don't like, and then experiment. I don't put it on every meal. They say 50% less sodium, but find it like a third of the saltiness. maybe even a quarter. It's like you have to put like 4 times as much. Yeah, 4 times as much Salicornia on there as you do. And my nettles from my trying it out. And my neighbor gave me a wok full last month. I still haven't edited the video on that yet. But the saltiness is like a quarter of the amount of salt. So when I cover a cheese like this with salt, by the way, I intentionally did not salt the cheese itself, the inside, because usually with this size cheese, when I don't salt the inside, and then in the aging process and the maintenance process, the storing process, I salt the outside. That salt penetrates and does the salting job while helping to keep off those 3 bacteria off of the outside of the cheese. So I wanted to try as soon as I had this less salty salt that was more powdery. So the problem with salt is it's hard to get it to adhere to the side of a pressed cheese. Like get it to, so a lot of people will, they'll create a salty brine and dip it, and that's what people did culturally. But then you gotta let it air dry, and that takes time. And I like things that are quick. I like quick and efficient and enjoyable workflows. And the dustiness of this, as soon as I opened it and tasted it and put 2 and 2 together, I was like, this will be perfect for dusting my cheeses to keep off the microbes, but not be so salty that it isn't a pleasant taste. Like when I tried to do this size cheese covered in salt, it ends up making, like, even if I don't have it on the outside visibly like this, like I've tried all different methods of packing it, pressing it into it, and brining it, and all of the methods of trying to use regular salt to inhibit microbial growth on the outside of the cheese result in the inside of the cheese being too salty to be palatable. So as soon as sorry, I have to keep re-explaining, but I'm just like trying to understand this better too and explain it better. Is the cakiness of this and the quarter the saltiness were the 2 things that stood out to me as bingo. This is what I've been looking for like the perfect simplification. Like I've simplified the cheese renneting and processing and weigh catching. Like I have an internal jar, everything catches, that no one else has on the internet. No one else before. Sorry if the outside's so dirty. I keep everything on the inside of everything clean, including my body, but the outside is impossible because we live outside. That's what I tell people. So stop your bitching, because I'm cleaner on the inside than you. Everyone bitching in the comments about my dirtiness. This is absolutely clean. It's got such a perfect saltiness. I was concerned that it wouldn't be salty enough to inhibit microbial growth. And holy cow, I've been thinking about it for the last week, because it's been hot, been like 90 degrees. And then this week it's cool. And I'm like, okay, we went through that week wave of 90s, and it's been a month now. That's a good time check. Do a 1 month review or check in on. I haven't flipped this. I haven't done anything. This is I intended to have this a test to be what is possible with the least amount of maintenance and resources, so that even if you don't have an evaporative cooler, if you had my previous cheese making system, which was just my Rams pack boxes here, they were filled with specialty made little boxes that had air gaps at the ends, and I kept it shaded, so it just had cool air. And the cycle of cheeses that I had in there included new ones that had moisture, that releasing that helped to, when that moisture would exit those from the middle of the box, in the same way that my evaporative cooler does. And so This is, I'm so excited because this is the absolute easiest way to make cheese. Take rennet, drop it, sprinkle it just a tad bit into the bottom of your milking jar, milk directly on top of it, let it set, take your long knife, stick it down in there and cut it up into curds, and then pour it into this mold and leave the jar upside down. Like you flip it, and it'll be like above this level, and then in like 20 minutes it sets down to that level, and you can do that. And then after a couple more hours it's lower, and you can put in the plunger to press down, and then the spring on in between the lid and it, the driver, and it creates this. And then you dust it with Salicornia, you throw it in any container that has a little bit of breathability in it, but not too much, so that it doesn't dry out and bugs can't get to it. And you get this, what feels like a good moisture level for an all-around workable cheese. Not too dry that you can't reconstitute it, but not too wet that it's not like I could toss this to someone and it has enough stuff on the outside, like that you might want to like rub off anyway. I'm about to taste test it and see how salty it is. If it's too salty, I'm hoping that it's a little too salty to just bite into as stored, because then that will mean that it has a natural coating to then rub off for the recipient to rub off, and then they can't really like whine about its they won't be as concerned about it having cooties being passed hand to hand, so that it could be closer to a currency. I'm thinking these could be like cheese coins. Yeah, cheese coins. Let's taste it. Awesome. We'll dry. Ooh. Wow. That is like nothing else I've ever had in my life. This is like a cookie, you guys, that isn't sweet and has no flour in it. Oh my gosh. This is so weird. Okay, first thing it reminds me of, like, closest thing it reminds me of definitely is a little bit too salty. Now the salt is becoming overwhelming. But that is really good for the first 10 seconds. The texture of everything is like a biscotti. I'm not kidding you guys. This is nothing but cheese. And this thing has the texture of like the finest biscotti. Like usually biscotti's rock hard, but like some of the softer, crumblier, more delicate biscottis, yeah, I don't know. They must aerate the dough if they double bake biscottis to get that. That's what I would imagine. There's definitely been microbial activity in the same way that there's like way too much microbial activity in that more moistured Salicornia coated one, the kefir one. It this has just the right amount of microbial activity that was enabled because of its moisture level being so low that not many types and not much microbes can thrive in that environment. So it must have been, I don't know, like it's just like the perfect because the microbes, when they digest the inside and process it and create all the flavors, they also put off a gas. And when cheese has too much moisture in it and there's too much microbial activity processing it too quickly, then they produce too much of their gas for the matrix of the cheese to air it out, and so it ends up pushing out and creating air pockets. That's what's responsible for the circles and like Swiss cheese and stuff. And so that's basically what this has done, is that the on like the finest level, like the microbes must have been enabled by the non-refrigeration to proliferate enough. And again, there wasn't as much microbes in this one because this is just the innate microbes in the milk, as opposed to all the crazy amounts of number and variances of microbes in the kefir cheese that also had too much moisture, so that just went way overboard. This cheese's process of microbial enabled activity is perfectly dialed in and staged to where the initial relatively fewer natural and narrower spectrum natural microbes in the sheep's milk that goes into the cheese was enabled at first without the refrigeration under my bed to start creating the gases. But then two things worked upon it shutting off that and not shutting off the microbial activity, so that those microbes wouldn't go on to liquefy, because that's what they end up doing, is they create gas. And in later stages, like with brie and stuff, that's why brie is runny, can be runny, that the more aged stages of it, is they start to eat it so much that not only do they change the flavor, but they change the physical nature of it. This is the first steps of it changing the physical nature of it, is the air pockets. And the two things that cut it off, the activity off, before the microbes started liquefying, is the dryness level. I was able to cut this into curds as opposed to the kefir, and I was able to press more of the moisture out initially. And the second thing is the it's a smaller spectrum and less quantity of microbes. But then the temperature, that week of 90 degree temperatures, I don't know, there's probably equal amount of microbes, advantageous microbes, that could have taken over by then. So that one really wasn't playing into it. It's the dryness level. I was going to say that last week of really hot weather, it was like 98 degrees. That'll kill off a lot of the initial microbes that are, well, no, because no, it wouldn't kill it off. I was thinking that it would kill off a portion of them, but they're all coming from a body of an animal that's 105 degrees, 104.5 degrees. So it's all those microbes are going to be heat resistant. So it's just the dryness level of this, and the size of it. The size of the cheese corresponds with its dryness, influences it. So the dryness of the cheese, and it being raw and not inoculated with just one culture and a bunch of it, so that it was really microbial active. Though you could play with that, and it could make like different size holes, depending on what microbe you cultured it with. My sheep's natural, so this is a little too salty, and this is really good tasting. I did not smoke it, so now I'm really interested in like doing this with smoke, because that's automatically going to be better tasting. So I could toss this to someone, trade it to them, put it in a paper bag, because it's so hard. It's just very tradable. You can drop it on the ground and it doesn't matter, because the outside is antimicrobial. You could even, let's see, it's not rubbing off as well. Let's see if it shoots off or rinses off. Add water. It'll rinse off if you rinse and rub. Oh, I got a new cargo rack. Look at this, guys. I welded a cargo rack. I'm making a bathroom back here, drop down bathroom. Got my shower to the right here. All right. Welder on the back, everything. Check this out. All right. I was saying earlier, wow, that texture is exactly like the finest biscotti I've ever had. But the flavor is like, and the texture too is similar. It's a lot finer, a lot more appealing than my ricotta. What is it? Dehydrated ricotta. A couple years ago, I was experimenting for months with solar and fire. I messed with it a couple times over the years. Dehydrated ricotta crumbles. I think that's what I was calling them. Ricotta crumbles. This tastes like that, but better. Like by, twice or 25%. But then definitely twice as good of a texture as those ricotta crumbles. I thought those ricotta crumbles, and they're like they're awesome texture for just crumbling on anything. The texture, but this is so fine. The crumbles that are in this, it's more like the finest biscotti I've ever had. And this is not too salty. I can eat this whole thing straight. I can imagine and be filled. Like, I like this. I like where this is going. This is where I'm trying to go with this. This is the whole point of simplification. Yeah, this has gone way over 5 minutes. I want to stop this so that people don't see it. It's a long time and then are deterred away, or it's lost in the my longer live streams. Yeah, I hope this is helpful, you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. Good. Hopefully this is better, was clearer than the 360.